Hello, I'm Tom with the list of interesting things. Today on the list of interesting political things is going to be the first in a pair of videos on the paths to victory for the two principal candidates in the 2020 presidential election. Today is October 17th, 2020, and President Donald Trump is not doing so hot. If you watched our first election prediction for the 2020 presidential election, link in the description, you'll know that he has a long hill to climb if he's going to manage to come back and win the election. Today I'd like to spend some time going over what that hill might look like. This video will examine what the best path to victory for Donald Trump might be if I were on his campaign team, what strategies I might employ, and in particular, what states I might focus on. Then in the next video, I'd like to do the same for Joe Biden, explore what his possible paths are, and what I'd advise him to do, and in particular, what to commit to if I was on his team. Let's get in, but before we start, I'd like you to close your eyes. Imagine that you aren't a concerned citizen, you aren't a curious Gov student, or whatever you might be. For the next 10 minutes, you're a political consultant, and your job is to win. For the next few minutes, you and I are leading the Trump campaign team. Let's see if we can find a way to manufacture a victory. We're going to start by filling in the map as it currently stands according to our most recent predictions, just so that we have a sense of what the map is going to look like. I don't think that anyone is going to argue too strongly as I start to color some of these in. Not Nevada. We're going to go Oregon, California, Hawaii, New Mexico. I don't think that anyone is going to argue too strongly as I click on Illinois. Chicago's pretty big, as we know. And a majority of the Northeast. We're also going to click on New York. We'll move right on to the safe Republican states. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time going over this. I'll have another election prediction video coming out in the next week or so. So I encourage you to keep your eye out for that until we get these done. We're going to go ahead and hit up Colorado, if I can manage to click things properly. We're also going to click on Virginia, and we're going to go ahead and characterize Maine like so. It's going to be safe there, likely there, and tilt there, I believe is how we characterized it last time. And for Nebraska, it's going to be safe at large and District 3, likely District 1, and lean Dem District 2. And I believe that's it for the likely states. No, we got to do the likely Republicans still. We're going to do Utah, Kansas, Missouri, and Indiana. I think I had Kentucky likely Republican, but it's really not going to matter all that much once we start getting into it. And of course, South Carolina and Alaska as well. So this is the map without any lean states. We'll go ahead and start filling those in. I think the only lean Republican state that we had was Texas, but we have a lot of lean Democrat states. All of the Rust Belt, we also had New Hampshire, Arizona, and Nevada. This is a hell of a map for the Democrats. As you can see, without even touching the proper swing states, Democrats are at an advantage. We'll go ahead and fill in the tilt states as we had them last time. We'd characterized Florida and North Carolina as tilt Democrat, as well as Georgia, Ohio, and Iowa as tilt Republican. So as you can see, this is not an unreasonable map, and indeed, some projections have actually seen some of these things change a bit. For example, some projections have seen Georgia go toss-up and Texas go tilt, and even Florida and North Carolina trending toward likely. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to characterize those in that fashion, but it is worth keeping in mind as we go forward just how far behind Donald Trump is at the moment. Even if he wins all of the tilt states right now, he will still be considerably behind. So, we are political consultants, and as we can see, Donald Trump is far behind. What we're going to do is take away every tilt and lean state, and we're going to turn them all back to toss-up. We are going to assume for the moment that every tilt and lean state is technically in play. And we are going to move forward from there with that in mind. We're going to need to keep a few things in mind going forward. Number one, resources are finite. $200 million is a lot of money, but it's not bottomless. And we need to decide how and where we would advise the campaign to spend that money. Every dollar that we spend on ads in Texas are mailers that we can't send out in North Carolina. Similarly, number two, humans are not eternal. They have to eat and sleep, and we have only so many of them. We can't send them knocking on every door in the country. We have to decide if having them make calls to Arizona or staff events in Florida or knock on all the disease-ridden doors in the state of Virginia are more important. Finally, number three, the goal is to win. And in this example, we have a long hill to climb. So you can't be afraid to fight a little dirty. Next, we have to make a few assumptions. And in that lies my first piece of advice. Completely, and I mean completely, abandon Texas and Georgia. Leave them completely. No ads, no mailers, no TV, no personal appearances. Assume that Texas will go the way of Oklahoma. Spend no money here, spend no time here. Cross your fingers and pray that these two states will hold. Here's my logic. If you would have lost Texas, if you would have lost Georgia, then no amount of money that you would have spent here would have made the difference to put you over the 270 mark. There's no sense in saving either of these states. If you sacrifice Florida, which we'll discuss in a minute, for the sake of Georgia, then you would have lost anyway. And if you commit to saving Florida and Texas falls, then it's safe to say that you never had a chance. Remember, the goal here is just to win. Similarly, completely abandon Iowa and New Hampshire. They are too small of electoral prizes. We just don't care about them. We're not fighting for nickels and dimes here. We need big wins, or the Trump campaign is just going to lose. With its 6 electoral votes, leave Iowa by the wayside. If you pick it up, great. If not, it's very unlikely to matter. Same logic with the lesser districts of Maine District 2 and Nebraska District 2 and Maine at large. We just don't care about them. Let them fall to the Democrats. Now remember, we are doing this from the point of view of the Trump campaign. So we do that. We give those ones to the Dems. And then the next thing we do is find the shortest path to victory with these remaining states. And I think that that path to victory starts in Florida. Florida is the largest electoral prize remaining. It has very high elderly white population, a group which has historically broken for the GOP pretty hard. Hit Florida as hard as you would have hit Texas and Georgia combined. All that ad money that you pulled out of Georgia and Texas, put it all into Florida. And try to get Florida by just a hair. Laser target ads to the elderly population and the Latin American population, the latter of whom, as we can see here, have been breaking for Joe Biden much less strongly than they did for Hillary Clinton in 2016. If Trump can sway Miami-Dade County by even 3 or 4%, he might have a chance at a Floridian plurality. Similar tactics might be employed in the next 2 states, North Carolina and Arizona, the latter of which has similar Latin American populations to Florida, and both of which are traditional Republican strongholds, and both of which are currently leaning hard to the Democratic side. Furthermore, and here's something important, Arizona and North Carolina both have pretty competitive Senate races with very popular Democratic candidates. And therein, I think, lies a possible path to victory. Now, I said we might be playing a little dirty, and here it is. Cal Cunningham in North Carolina and Mark Kelly in Arizona are both very popular challengers. They're both polling well ahead of their respective GOP incumbents, as you can see right here. As a Trump campaign manager, you might consider advising appealing to the RNC. Get some funding for these two races, maybe $250 million each. From there, find a way to narrow these races. And if you're feeling desperate enough, try to get Kelly or Cunningham out of their respective contests. Old family history, angry exes, even as we've seen in North Carolina, that sexting scandal, things like that, old sexting mistresses. Anything you can find to make these races competitive again. And then, and here's the kicker, shut up. Narrow the races, pave the way for the senatorial races, and then ride their coattails to victory in these two states. Done properly, you might have a chance at North Carolina and at North Carolina and Arizona. And here is the important part. You want to be quiet after that. Donald Trump has not been polling well in either of these states. Ideally, you turn it into a Kentucky, where there is a popular Republican senatorial candidate, and you trust the traditional Republican voters in North Carolina and the traditional Republican voters in Arizona to vote up ballot from the senatorial races to you. It's a long shot, but it's possible. Now, I'd like it noted at this point that I do not condone dirty politics in any way. I've worked in dirty politics and I find it appalling. But it would be naive to assume that such tactics don't exist, and naive to assume that the Trump campaign wouldn't consider them in general and isn't considering them now. So as you can see at this point, the Electoral College is barely in reach, just by a hair. Donald Trump would need another, I believe, 35 electoral votes to win. Where do they come from? Once you've set a game plan in Florida, North Carolina, and Arizona, once you've selected your teams to run these campaigns, to manage these states, because remember, you don't want to spend much time in any of these states, you then spend every single waking second of your life in Ohio and Pennsylvania. You spend all of your time here. Donald Trump is behind in PA, but not unassailably behind, and he's actually up by just a hair in Ohio. These are within reach, just barely. Meet voters, kiss babies, run the entire Pittsburgh metropolitan area out of hand sanitizer. If your goal is to win, and just to win, call your family. Get Don Jr. in Toledo. Get Ivanka in Columbus. Get Eric in Philly. And you, the candidate and the president, spend all of your time running to every single municipality in the entire state of Ohio. Give a 12-minute interview 10 times a day to every single local town level and county level TV and radio station in the whole of Pennsylvania. You can make the occasional trip to Miami or Tallahassee, but these two states need to be your focus. You need to let Florida lean on its ad buys. You need to trust your senatorial colleagues in North Carolina and Arizona in conjunction with the RNC to pull those two races for you. And you need to trust your GOP ticket heading to hold the line in Georgia and Texas. Now, I hope through this that I have characterized just how far behind Donald Trump is. This situation is possible, and if I were forced to help on the Trump campaign, this is what I would be shooting for. But this is still far out of reach for the Trump campaign now, and a lot of effort needs to be put in between now and Election Day in order to make this happen. He needs some big changes fast, or he's going to find himself so far in the hole that he won't be able to climb out, because votes are already being cast and will start being counted very soon. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, I'll be doing similar tactical assessment of the Biden campaign, so subscribe to make sure that you catch that. And until next time, be like Donald Trump's path to victory. Be hopeful and creative and a little optimistic. And above all, be interesting. I'll see you next time.